They told me I was born Charles Morrison. It's felt like a Van Manson situation, like the roles that somehow became reversed. I don't know what my servant name was, and all they left for me to remember was my slave name, or so they had thought, in their infinite federal knowledge lacking wisdom. Now my name is rather poet nor killer, yet is defined by each in their turn in the resultant chemical reactant that is left to yield. Who I was before I became James Douglas Manson is a question that consumes me, yet will always confound me. I'll never really know who I was, but I will always be Jim Manson, not Charles Morrison. Whoever I am, it's more Jim Manson than Charles Morrison. It might be, for all suits and purposes, a Van Manson looking in the mirror at the ayahuasca a go-go, for all I know, without any wisdom, but it's not Charles Morrison. I determined long ago that Douglas Morrison was right. Money beats soul, you know? Those famous last words are out. But I also discovered that the little girl's monstropulous scissors cut big money in their tiny men. My credo was then, Sister Scissors beat big money patriarch. Scissors beats big money. I never knew back then how truly deep that money hole would go. A K-hole was one thing, but a KKK hole? A Black Panther estrangement of psychology locked in a psyche prison of racial recognition overdrive? I never knew how much Manson would inform my Morrison. I'll never know who I was before I was Charles Morrison, but I will know who I am after Charles Morrison. It won't be who the government in all its l'état attempt desired so strongly for me to be. I know that I am criminally sophisticated. I mean, what is criminally sophisticated about writing a federal check that isn't even well forged? Charlie was in the Fed slammer for that much longer due to lack of criminal sophistication, but me? I'm that John Lennon they can never crucify. The FBI kept their dossier on Jim Morrison and Charles Manson just as well. Each had murderous aspects to their character. One committed the murder of themselves, it would seem, or was it the CIA? And the other never killed anyone except in his mind. But then it is that Jim only killed himself in his mind? Well, I keep my dossiers on those who kept dossiers on people like Jim or Charles. There is so much I have learned, so much I have done, and so much as yet to be done. Shaver a piece off the West, not so jolly anymore, will attest. The government is under White House arrest. Jolly West is going horny south to a sullen east. We'll make it appear the beast of burden, worse than killed the least of the wicked, to no candle to burn this string, the wax of this sincere sin. Government is like a baby that aborted its womb, all for the best ratings and biggest crowd size, but the least winning of the hearts and minds. Tried to make it look like the boomers aborted the children to bust, but the government thrust their MK Ultra in. The soulless hath not a mind to have a heart. The soulless hath not a heart to think much of a mind, yet think themselves of kind, to have a heart and a mind of we, the people, thought to find, no heart nor mind to be thine. You're under White House arrest. The handcuffs are in your minds. Gave them to yourselves in kind when you tried to force hearts and minds. CRP, yeah, you know me, will give an AARP to the ARP from the Better Businesses as People Death Bureau. Cannabis research projects for we, the people. Study how violence curbs when weeds on the steeple. Sheep roar like lions of peace, they my people. Red-eyed and horny side with hunger unlike mine. AARP and Washington, D.C. is for the government. Their payback for plausible deniability. CRP they wish they could see. but all they got is their cocaine research project. I'll retire it in every respect. It's what you'll instead see, the AARP. Yeah, CRP of the government could know me, but peace is illegal in the reign of tyranny. Got milk? From my lactating military midwives, yes I do. A tall trick, pull a neo-Nazi out of a hat. A ribbit out of a hate. Rabid out of the consumer's fate. Gottlieb needs more cow labelle. I will think about how I've got milk, rather than think the government's got lies. I will think I've got milk, and the government is my cowboy, not from Texas. I'll bring Tex as such to them. It's elementary, my dear Tex Watson. All my RXs and axes come from Texas, herded cattle to the house of the white. I got thoughts and I got prayers. I prayed on their thoughts, I thought on their prayers. I got milk I thought about. I cried more over spilt milk than flowing blood. I prayed to the cows and cowboys over a cereal bowl, and I'm on strike. He was nobody. I'm worse than nobody, but I'm better than somebody. Not going to commute the government sentence, semicolon it away with a paper-clipped colonoscopy. Glutal, brutal front door men forced to be backdoor toys for the government's family, girls and boys. I pray over spilt milk. I'm going to lick it up like a gym lion. My tongue is an ardent prayer upon the reckoning of the past. Can I be ad liberty? Do you Gottlieb? All you thought was got milk. Got the lie, B. Is all you got, all you thought. Can I be ad liberty, baby? Gottlieb, got lie, B. I'm not concerned with milk. Milk of MLK Jr. must never have not been well spent. Shall I turn the rainbow panther, then pounce to pent as a wild bobcat loose to Roberts? I studied the case of Shaver. I had to find a CIA operative who fit the bill of something like a modern-day Louis Joylon West. West Jolly, yet more. Shaver was this member of the USAF who woke up mysteriously with bloodstains and a woman raped and murdered close by. West had his thumb all over this. I had to make someone who was part MK-Ultra hypnotist, other part murderer in trance states. The hypnotist personality would subsume the murderous trance state for the open metacognition imprinting of the hypnotist. Eventually, the personality would hypnotize to a peaceable trance state and self-imprint the new personality. The memories would be deleted forever since the new personality would be fully induced over the older one. Thus is Shaver West. I was just having the person in mind. They will make it look like some Neo-Jolly West was doing it. Instead of killing rather than discorporation, I call it reincorporation. Imprint and induce a temporary personality and begin inducing it permanently. Each member of the White House will have their personalities rewrit, an ego death of sorts, certainly, but not of your garden of the government-made murderous hippies variety. Shaver West was just the beginning of the Valentine's Michael. Look at your game, patriarchy, scanning the talent of Lex Talionis. Man, it's nothing like the game of my girls. Look at my girls' game, man. An eye scan for an eye, by the games you sly. Vietnam all over again in Afghanistan. Can you let Saigons be Saigons? Look at your game, patriarchy. It's nothing like the game of my girls. Yeah, look at your game, girl, compared to their pans at Kirkenzie's. Take a look, girl, for a whirl. Take a look at their game. One of the main reasons that Charles failed so terribly was by being locked into a racist delusion. In that hillbilly, immature boy mentality, it was always a man's game. He'd stop and sing about the games of the girls, but the game he must have had to play, asked if he went back to the crime scene after the Tate murders and were just left with Charlie pacing around. reveling in the riveting moment and keeping a mystery. The games of these girls was just child's play compared to that game he must have played. That game never ended, just became discorporated. Discorporation, like the anti-corporation. The problem was this idea that the women would take out the dishes, clean out the shed, and stab the vegetative. Roger Smith was a familiar man in a familiar criminology land. This juvenile Jubal used Susan Atkins for his murderous cabal, had his carbs and ate them too. Charlie had no qualms with a woman acting at the orders of another man in the seeming military chain of command. The hidden hand in a transparent land had no problem using a woman's hand. Less of a moral dilemma than with Tex Watson. It's a patriarchy that would rather a woman's hand be vicariously used to stab a knife in than sooner do it themselves. Women only have the power of death at a man's command. That they could drop out from this sad, sick trip, yet be outside the borders of morality, yet have an anti-established philosophy. But when it was all said and done, Charlie himself was only able to do what he did because other men in the chain of command gave it the okay. Because of the very establishment they were supposedly against, Charlie and the family were able to continue to be against it, but they were never against a patriarchy. If Roger Smith had stopped commuting those sentences and someone said no in the chain of command, then no Charlie to give orders to his girls to commit these atrocities. For my Atkins, no man ever told her to kill anyone. Only in a patriarchy is the right to kill or worse than kill reserved for men, and men only. A man somewhere had to say it was okay for Atkins to eventually be able to do what she did. If I were Charlie, I'd prefer for the girls to do the killings, or perhaps I'd think it's a man's job and not a girl's game. But in my family, it's the girls who are really the authority. It isn't just some girl who has been given the commandment of death, or worse than death by some father, god, or man of son whatsoever. For a full Charles Manson in reverse, there must be a woman, man, daughter Charlie, whatever you would love to call her. Her code name to me is man daughter. Charlene, for all I know. It's really all I know. These women are not to be underestimated. Had their fun time with Charles Morrison, and even more fun time with James Douglas Manson, and that is about as much as you'll ever know. I cannot tell you what I really know about what I did, because in this reverse Charles Manson scenario, it was a woman who was the actual Charles Manson. They did a camera and continuous interrogation technique, high doses of LSD, electroshock treatments, Thorazine, sleep room tapes, repeated suggestions after everything had been done. Then once I'd been wiped, I had become James Douglas Manson. And that is as much as I actually know. And I was then the crane that was in the Pentagon's gone brain. No flight to fly or feathers of angels fallen nor risen. Perfection has come to its extinction by the death of Christianity, the death of plausible deniability of a holy Roman Empire. So I did not fly, but all these memories did pass me by, like the secret option in the Iraqi campaign simulation. I was everywhere I never knew I'd been. Perpetual covert war is now the standard form of warfare. I recognize this clearly now. I'm a von Neumann, still a born-against Christian, though. And he said to Charlie, be like the crane with the brain that never runs. Never run with me, never run with me.